Good morning. I am Kiran Raj. Welcome to the online classes on LAMP technology. Today we will discuss about the installation of the MySQL. MySQL is an RDBMS, that is Relational Database Management System. It is mainly popular because it supports both open source and web-based communities. It is popular and appealing to the various kinds of the database users and administrators, mainly because it provides real-time solutions and it is widely accessible because of the GNU public policy, that is GPP, which is a standard license agreement for participating in the open source software. Since it is a open source software, anyone can make the changes or they can do the changes as per their requirement, and it costs no money. It is freely available also. MySQL is an open source software, that means the code is available. Now, let us say that you are creating the application from the support of the MySQL. Then what about it? Whether the source code should be released? Application source code should only need to be released only if the MySQL code is required for the application to run. So if the MySQL code is required for the application to run, then only you should release the source code. Or let us say that your RDBMS is distributed with the software application. That time also you have to provide the source code. So what the companies are doing? Companies cannot give the source code as it is liked, right? Because they are developing their own codes or they are developing their own application, and it takes lot of time and money to create one application, right? So what the companies are doing? Companies are getting the private license from the MySQL, which is only available for the $200 for the single unit. There are different packages are available where you can purchase the MySQL depending on the user's requirement. For single unit it costs around $200. So when they make it private license, that time the companies did not provide the source code of the application. As it is already mentioned, it is developer friendly, easy to use, and it is continuously growing. The changes are happening because of it is open source nature, and many features are added. There are some companies which are using the MySQL, that is Slashdot, which is News for Nerds, PHP Nuke, which is a website management system, Freshmeat, it is a software directory, Linux.com, it is portal for news, tips and downloads of the Linux. MySQL is ideally suited for the PHP, Perl, Python and Pascal developers because the syntax support that is similar to those languages. That is, MySQL syntax is similar to PHP, Perl, Python and the Pascal. Advantages of having the access to the source code of the MySQL to make the MySQL do whatever it is required of it. And several GUIs are also provided by the MySQL, that is MySQL CC, PHP myadmin, MySQL DB for Python, MySQL Ruby. There are some more GUIs are also present. GUI is graphical user interface. MySQL is geared towards selecting and updating data over inserting and the deleting. That doesn't mean that it cannot do the insertion and deletion, but it can do the selection and updating effortlessly or very easily. And it is good choice for data storage and reference. But it is not good choice for creating and deleting the tables on the fly. Again, that doesn't mean that you cannot create the and delete the table. It just means that you cannot create the table and delete the table when the transaction is happening. For the web, it is almost perfect for tracking the users and creating the dynamic page. Here, this can be done, that is tracking the users and creating the dynamic page. It can be done in between the transactions also. Getting started, the simplest way to install the MySQL on the Linux box is to use the RPMs. So where you can find the RPM? MySQL website, that is www.mysql.com. From there, navigate to downloads page, and afterwards you will have the MySQL database server and standard clients. There you can press or click the current production release of the MySQL, and future alpha and future release of the MySQLs are also available, but it is recommended that you can choose the current production release of the MySQL. Or you can directly go to the MySQL website. Under the download section, that is community center, you have the different repositories are there. From the repositories also you can choose the RPMs. In the RPMs, the specifications are given or the details are provided. So it is available, or different RPMs are given for the different Linux system and different operating systems. So you can choose depending on your Linux system version. After choosing the current production version, so click on the MySQL version number, that is production release which is recommended, and afterwards you can go to the current production number downloads page. Afterwards you can choose the Linux 86 RPM downloads. Again, the Linux 86 RPM, you have to know what is your Linux system is. Then download all the RPMs under that, and you have to download all the RPMs, or you can download the package, because every RPMs are required for the installation of the MySQL on the Linux box. So here are some of the RPMs that is required: MySQL -4.0, MySQL Server -4.0.17-0.i386.rpm, the actual MySQL database engine, MySQL-client, which is used for the interactive character-based MySQL client, MySQL shared, which will be having the shared libraries, MySQL shared compact will be having the shared libraries for both MySQL 3.2.3 and for MySQL 4.0. MySQL embedded hyphen 4.0 17.0 hyphen i386 RPMs, which is embedded M5L server library. MySQL D level 4.017 hyphen 0 dot i386 RPMs, which is a libraries and includes files, compile other MySQL clients such as per modules for the development. So that going to have your per or PHP. MySQL bench, RPM required to benchmark, that is test suite. The MySQL installation requires Perl and the BDB MySQL module. MySQL Max 4.0 17 iPhone 0 i386 RPM, that is MySQL Max server version, which includes InodeDB tables. Using add remove application tools. After downloading the required RPM package, before installing them in the Linux box, we have to check whether the earlier RPMs are available in your system or if any MySQL is installed in your system. Why it is done? Because if there are any already installed RPMs are there which is related to MySQL or MySQL is installed, then you have to reinstall it. Okay. How to find the version? You can go to the server section and then you can type the MySQL admin version, that will provide the details of the MySQL that is present with you. Okay, so these are the details of the MySQL version and server version, protocol version, every details are provided for you. You can find the version of the MySQL DB also. Just go to the MySQL and type select version. When you run the command, you will get the version number, for example 4.0 17 hyphen hyphen max. Now let us say that your RPM that you have downloaded is newer version compared to the MySQL that is present with you. Then what you have to do? You have to uninstall your MySQL also, and then you have to reinstall the MySQL, install the MySQL with updated features, or you have to install the newer version of the MySQL. So uninstalling of the MySQL, it can be done from the add or remove application utility which is present in the Linux there. Okay, so you can remove the MySQL server and MySQL client. So it will uninstall the MySQL. Only when your RPMs are newer compared to your installed MySQL version. Why you are doing that? Because your MySQL may not support the newer RPMs. Okay, so that is the reason we are doing that. Using the Linux command line, as I already mentioned, let us say that your system has already installed the certain RPMs. Then what you have to do? Then you have to uninstall, right? In the previous slide, I have mentioned that if it is already installed, then you have to uninstall. So how to uninstall? Before uninstalling, you have to know what are the RPMs that is present with you. So you can have the command rpm -qa mysql. This command will list the RPMs that is loaded. So it is going to display the different RPMs on your screen. After that, what you can do? After that, you can remove the RPM. How to remove the RPM? RPM hyphen E. Hyphen E is used for removing the RPM or uninstalling it. Afterwards, name of the RPM. So, let us say that on my screen, these are the RPMs that got listed from the RPM -QA MySQL. Then I am going to uninstall them. How to uninstall? RPM-E MySQL client, RPM-E MySQL bench, and I am going to uninstall every RPMs. Now let us say that there are certain dependencies are present. There are certain dependencies are present. When your software or RPM is having the dependencies, they cannot be removed. Okay? So then how it should be removed? You can use RPM-E no DEPS, that is no dependency MySQL-server. Now, even if the dependencies are present, it is going to forcefully remove the RPM. It is going to forcefully uninstall the RPMs without disturbing or without removing the dependencies. Installation of the RPM we will see in the next class. So today we have learned about the MySQL, downloading of the MySQL and the RPMs, and if any MySQL or the RPMs are already installed, then how to uninstall them or how to remove them. Thank you.